Katie.
And I'm Steve, and this is the City of Reading podcast. In August of 2023, the Reading Police Department officially launched body-worn cameras in Reading. Nearly a year later, Chief Barner joins us to discuss the program's successes, learning curves, and challenges.
During a recent update to the Reading City Council, Chief Barner highlighted an example of how body camera footage provides transparency to what previously has been a subjective topic. We'll let you hear the audio of this particular traffic stop to demonstrate how recordings can protect both community members and police officers depending on the incident.
He also discusses the recent incident with an officer-involved shooting that took place on Cypress Avenue and how body-worn camera footage was used in that investigation and public records request.
The overall takeaway of the program thus far has been enhanced officer safety, improved community relations, and a more transparent system for officers and community members.
Brian Barner, Chief of Police with the Reading Police Department.
Thank you, Chief, for joining us today. We're excited to have you on and revisit the topic of body-worn cameras. We last connected on this just over a year ago and thought it was a good time to bring it back and see how things are going. So maybe we can start with that. Overall, how has the implementation of the body-worn camera program impacted police operations and interactions with the community since its inception?
As the police chief, I've been very happy with how the program has been going. We started full implementation to the officers and our community service officers and our community work program officers that are in the field in August of 2023. There's been a few learning curves along the way, but overall, I think it's been fantastic. A lot of work that it has saved the police department. As a police chief and being here as long as I have at the police department, I knew how professional our staff was. I had no worries about that. And it has done exactly that. It has shown that our officers are professional. They provide good customer service. And unfortunately, there's some people out there that they make some frivolous accounts of what happened that sometimes with our officers that now we're able to go back and show that our officers are doing the right thing.
Just for the sake of those who might be unfamiliar with body-worn cameras, or they might not know that RPD has started wearing them, just on a super high level, what are the body cameras and what is their intention?
So the body camera it's worn on the officer's uniform, and we have a policy that covers what, when, where, how recordings are to be conducted. So we worked with our officer association on that when we first started the program. And obviously they're not new to police work. We are the first in Shasta County that law enforcement agency that has gone to the body-worn camera. So it was a little bit new here, but the police service in general, body-worn cameras have been growing, and rightfully so. In the times that we're in right now and some of the negativity about law enforcement and what they're doing, the body camera, as a chief of police, I look at it, it protects the city, and it also protects the officers as far as what they're doing and that they're doing the right thing.
During the initial rollout, it sounded like the majority of police officers were almost looking forward to the implementation of this body camera program for what you already touched on, the accountability piece, the ability to show actual proof of what transpired. On that note, have there been any notable changes in either officer or citizen behavior since the introduction of this body-worn camera program?
A lot of our officers that we've hired have come from other agencies that had body-worn cameras. And so they saw the benefit of them. And so our staff that never had them or never worked for an agency went out and fought that battle for us as far as all the good that they did. We had a lot of officers that carried audio recorders with them just to record instances with people that they were dealing with on the street. This just takes it one step further with the video and audio. Yeah, so it's been good. And I'm going to go back to the kind of that 30,000 foot level as far as the body-worn cameras. So they charge them. It's called docking. So they dock them at the end of their shift or on their days off. When they come in to go on duty, they'll undock the body-worn camera and attach it to their vests. They'll turn it on, and it will record throughout their shift. At the end of their shift, they come in and they dock it, and it automatically uploads all the video to our evidence system, evidence.com. And what's nice about the system that we went to is every call for service that they go to, it is automatically logged in with our CAD system that we have. If I am on a call for service for domestic violence, and I have my camera on, it automatically tags that with the call for service out of CAD. So the call for service that comes out of dispatch. So pretty cool system that is pretty easy for the officers to go back and find videos, and they don't have to go in and individually do each one. The other cool feature that we have with our body-worn cameras is the dictation. So if I'm out and having a conversation with somebody, I can go back as an officer and watch that video, but it also dictates out exactly what that conversation was. So I can actually be reading it while I'm listening to it. And then that can be cut and pasted and dropped into a report. It really streamlines that process for the officers.
So recently you presented to City Council an update on the body-worn cameras, and one of the pieces that you showed at the council meeting was actually an exchange between an officer at a traffic stop that really exemplified what the body-worn cameras can show to the community and how they both protect the community and the officers. We're going to play that audio of that traffic stop, but maybe you can just set the stage, set us up. What was happening before we splice into this traffic stop?
There's an instance where our crisis intervention unit and patrol officers were down underneath the Park Marina Bridge, where obviously many people know that was a hot spot there for a while. Our crisis intervention officers were doing some outreach for the people that were down there. There was some bad weather coming in, and so they were trying to help those people get some help. And during that exchange, there's a gentleman that is well known to our officers. He claims to be a homeless advocate, but he is just a very difficult person. So he was driving by saying really mean things to our police officers. But while he was doing that, there were some traffic violations, traffic vehicle code violations. And so one of our officers went and stopped him. And that was the beginning of that exchange. He was calling our officers Nazis and that they were doing horrible things. If you watch the body-worn camera in its entirety, during that traffic stop, the crisis intervention actually called for medical for somebody that was underneath the bridge and had an ambulance come and help somebody out with a medical issue. So they were doing great work underneath there. And the person that had issue to that, the person that was involved in that traffic stop, obviously just would have nothing of that. You couldn't help him understand that they were there doing the right thing and helping these people.
And my understanding was one of the reasons why this video came out to the public was that he actually had complained about that officer interaction. Is that correct?
Yes, he came in and filed a formal complaint and then also did a public records request for the body-worn camera video. So he was provided that, which he then put out throughout the community on all the social media outlets that he could have that he was able to. But again, all it did is just show how professional and how well our officer did during that very difficult interaction.
Hello, sir. Hi, Officer Danke, Reading Police. I pulled you over because you're driving without any lights on while inclement weather.
Oh, I just turned them on.
Oh, no, they're not on when you were driving.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
I want to let you know one of your headlights are out.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate you letting me know. I didn't know that. Can I look at your license, registration, proof of insurance, please? What were you? Is that what you were yelling when you passed us?
No, I'm a homeless advocate, and I'm wondering why you don't let the homeless stay under that bridge.
Oh, we were doing outreach, actually.
Oh, really? Where did they
Yeah.
go? The mission?
Well, they offered, the CERT team was down there, and I was
Yeah,
just
I
down there to
understand
help.
they give them a card. The mission's this way, Salvation Army's
It's not
that
just the
way.
mission. There's no
It's
boundaries.
It's really.
There's a lot of options. They do some
there's
really
not
good work.
I'm a homeless advocate, been homeless advocate for 20 years. There is
That's
not
wonderful. We need
a
more
lot-
people
there's
like
not
you.
a lot of options.
We need more folks like
There's
you.
not a lot of options. You got your camera. Can you turn that on?
Oh, it's actually already recording.
I really appreciate that. You
I-
should warn
I do
people
too.
when you got that camera on.
Well, it was publicly announced that we have body cameras. so-
Sure.
Yeah.
It's too bad that the union fought so hard that you weren't supposed to have body
Oh, I
cam.
love them.
Oh, I'm glad you
I love them. Thank you for your concern, though. I appreciate it, sir.
I'm concerned with the homeless here and where are they going to go
Me
when you
too.
drive
I'm
them
trying to
out
help
from
them.
under a bridge.
Well, I just enforce the law, sir. I don't make them.
I know that's
But I appreciate
what
your
the
concern.
Nazis said in Nuremberg.
Sir, I'm German, and I don't appreciate that.
Well, that's what they said in Nuremberg, okay? I don't care if you appreciate it.
We're not Nazis here.
You act like
That's
Nazis.
excessive.
You
Thank
act
you.
like
All right, I'll be right back. It's good for. Do you have an updated insurance card, sir? The one I have is expired 1/4 of 2024. By the way, that officer's out there with somebody helping with a medical concern, so they're not doing any enforcement right now. They're just helping somebody, as we do. I wasn't at work, sir.
Ticketing these people and telling them to get the hell out from under that bridge.
Well, I wasn't at work.
You can bullshit me all you want, but I know
I'm not joking. She's helping somebody.
I know what goes on with the homeless. I talk
Okay.
to them all the time, and we're harassing them and they're scared.
I'm sorry that you feel that way, sir.
I know it's not.
It's also a
It's the truth.
no trespass area under that bridge is
Let me tell
marked.
you something about that bridge.
But I don't feel like this is going to be
It's all fish and game.
I don't feel, yeah, and
Well,
they,
it's all
they
fish and game.
I don't
So
feel
you
this
could
is going to be
tell me-
fruitful.
Well, it's all fish and game. It doesn't belong to you. You don't even need to be there. It belongs to the fish and game. That's who needs to enforce it.
There's also fish and game code, sir. But again, I don't feel this is going to be a fruitful conversation. So,
That's fine.
and also that's
If it's not
their
gonna be fruitful,
business.
I'm not going to talk to you. Okay, I don't.
Okay. In that case, that's fine.
I'm gonna have that
Here.
attitude about this.
But I just don't feel that you're willing to listen. So you're going to get a ticket today for no lights with weather, and then no proof of insurance because it's an expired registration or expired insurance via card. That is a simple solution.
Giving me a chance to find my
You said
car.
you don't want to have a conversation. So that's a simple solution. It says it's not
I didn't say
correctable.
I didn't want to find my card. I said I don't want to have a conversation. I don't talk to police normally, but I'm talking to you.
I appreciate that. I like
Find my
conversation.
card if you give me
So-
just a second. You don't have to be rude. and write
I'm
me
not
off.
being rude.
Well, you are. You're writing me a ticket for. I have insurance.
I am writing you a
I
ticket.
have
So
insurance.
let me explain to you. It's going to be an easy solution. When you go to court, for traffic court, you present that insurance card, and they'll be able to show that you did have proof of insurance. Okay?
Let me ask you a question.
Okay,
You
so-
know Officer Will Williams?
No, I don't.
Were
So.
you familiar with him at all?
I don't. So this is your name, your vehicle information, the violations here.
I'm
This
trying
is
to
where
tuck
we're
my
at.
stuff.
Okay. This is where we're at. This is my information. Your court date is 4/5 of 24 at 8:30 in the morning. So you need to respond to this ticket by then. Signing in the highlighted section, not an admission of guilt, just a promise to appear. Okay. Here's a pen. Are you going to sign your ticket, sir?
I was going to find my proof of insurance that I know I have.
Okay, the one you
That's why
gave.
you're rushing me off.
The one you gave
I
me
understand
is
that.
expired
I do
1/4 of
understand that,
24.
but I just
Okay.
put one in my wallet just no more than a couple of weeks ago.
Okay,
If
so
you don't have
so
a
take it to
couple-
traffic
You
court.
don't have a couple minutes for me. You don't have a couple minutes for me
You
to
just looked
find
through
it.
everything in there.
No, I didn't. Here's your. I'll sign your thing.
Okay, go ahead and keep
No,
looking.
no, no, no. I'll
Okay.
sign the thing.
Perfect.
We'll
Not
see
an
you in
admission of
court.
guilt.
We'll
Yes.
see you in court.
That's what I get paid for. Not an admission of guilt. In the highlighted section. There we go. Let me get you a copy. Try to keep it out of the rain too much.
And one other thing, when I told you your resolution, I didn't insult you.
No, absolutely not. What I said is I'm German. I am not a Nazi, so I don't
Police
appreciate.
department is acting like a Nazi.
I'm so
I don't
sorry to hear that.
appreciate it
Okay,
either.
have a good day.
With regard to videos like this and just in general, how does the privacy of individuals recorded on the body worn cameras, particularly in sensitive situations, how does that work? It sounds like if you've requested a public records request and that video gets released, that is public information and there's no blurring of faces. But what about maybe innocent bystanders of certain incidents or folks who don't want their face shown on these videos? Does the system have some automation to help you blur out faces and things of that nature?
Yeah, so we have a body worn camera unit. So that's 2 community service officers and a lieutenant. So that makes up our unit. So the 2 community service officers, that is pretty much what they do all day, whether that be public records requests, videos, district attorney's office requests for cases that are going through, all of those different things that they do. If you go back and watch the council meeting, just since we implemented August 15th of 2023, we've captured just over 95,000 BWC videos, 2,400 videos for the district attorney's office for going to court, 990 requests for DA follow-up, 63 requests for our records department downstairs. So those 2 CSOs that are in there daily, they're very busy with, and all of that has to do with redaction of not only the video, but also the audible part of it. If there's names, if there's driver's licenses, social security numbers, date of birth, all of that has to be redacted out of those videos before they can be released. Really busy position. We do have, through the company that we use, Axon, they do have redaction software, which helps with that, but you still have to have somebody in there working on that every day.
And so maybe this is a good point to ask. Since August 2023, we've had, I mean, it's not quite a year, but you've had almost a year with the body-worn cameras. If you could just reflect on that, what have been some successes, which I think you've already kind of covered or mentioned, and then what have been some challenges?
Yeah, challenges have just been, it's a new piece of equipment, just like any piece of equipment that we bring into, whether we change what kind of car we drive, if we change our computer system, if we change some of the tools that we use, it's a muscle memory type thing. We know that it's going into this, it wasn't going to be perfect. There was going to be times when we did not get things recorded when they should have been, for officers that have never had them, and then trying to retrain them into that, it takes some time. I will say that our staff has done a tremendous job. We've had very little issues throughout the last, almost 9 months with the cameras. As I said earlier, I've been really happy with the program.
And Chief, maybe now's a good time to talk about a recent incident, an officer-involved shooting incident that took place. Can you talk to us a little bit about that incident, about how the body-worn camera specifically played a role in that incident, and maybe what some takeaways were from that?
Yeah, so we recently had an officer-involved critical incident, an officer-involved shooting, and that started with two of our park rangers who were out with two homeless individuals that were on private property, which had been posted. And it was an area that was a regular for people illegally camping on private property. So the two officers had the body-worn cameras going during that whole interaction, which was very beneficial because every day these police officers are out there, you never know what's going to happen as this kind of movie continues. And this gentleman was very verbally abusive towards the officers. As he's leaving the camp, he picks up a rock and throws it at the officers, almost hits them, all on body-worn camera. So it was great. They then, obviously that's an assault with a deadly weapon. So now, instead of just moving along from camping, they're going to go and effect an arrest. As they do that, he pulls a knife out and heads down Cypress Avenue, very busy. They put it out on the radio, put out that he has a knife in his hand. One of our school resource officers just happened to be at the gas station across the street. This is where we fill up our patrol vehicles. He was going off duty and he had his body-worn camera in sleep mode. Sleep mode is a function that you're allowed to use. The policy allowed it to put that camera into sleep mode. You weren't on calls for service when you were just out in circumstances like this, fueling up your car. He heard the call within 15 seconds. He responded across Cypress Avenue through traffic at 4:30 in the afternoon, saw the individual coming up the sidewalk, pulled in front of him with a patrol car, got out, told him several times to stop and drop the knife, which he continued at the officer with the knife in his hand, and unfortunately had to use lethal force to stop that person. The body-worn camera was not initiated at that time by that officer. The two park rangers that were coming up behind did capture it on body-worn camera, and then also the Enterprise rental car business, their security cameras captured the incident on video. And then we also had several witnesses, 3 individuals actually in the parking lot checking out a rental car that were great witnesses for us in that use of force incident. The body-worn camera also captured the medical that was done, which they did a phenomenal job of this person that had just come at the officer with a knife. Lethal force was used. He was shot several times, and 5 of our officers immediately went into rendering medical, which included several chest seals, a tourniquet on the arm. I have no doubt in talking to the medical professionals that arrived on scene that our officers saved that gentleman's life with the medical aid that they did and how quickly they did that to stop the bleeding with that individual. And He did live through the incident. Yes, the body-worn camera was not activated. This is the first critical incident that we have had happen since we implemented in August. So one of the things that we discovered is if a camera is in sleep mode, it is not recording. If it is not in sleep mode, it has an 18-hour loop, which is going, and we can physically, as administration and something that happens like this, we can take that camera and physically download it to capture that. But in sleep mode, we were not able to do that. So we were able to quickly make adjustments and adjust our policy to only allow sleep mode in certain circumstances. And so that it was very clear to our officers, they knew when it was allowed. And then also so that if something happens in the future, that we were able to go back and get that video. Because a lot of things that these officers are doing, it is split-second decision-making. And I have told my staff, and I've gone to briefings with our officers, is in a lethal force incident, I do not want them reaching to turn their body camera on as opposed to reacting to that threat with the proper force, whether that be deadly force or one of their other tools. But it needs to be off sleep mode so that we can go back and capture that video after the fact when everything is safe and the officers are safe.
And Chief, I've got to imagine too, prior to the use of these body-worn cameras by the department, an incident such as this really would have been trying to secure those witnesses, hoping that maybe some surrounding businesses have some security footage from the incident, word of mouth, my word against your word type of thing. It seems like for the most part, the body-worn camera really adds a sense of authenticity to it, and you can't really argue with the footage.
Yeah, and one of the things going to the body-worn cameras is we were very open with the public and with our community that just because we have body-worn cameras, it doesn't tell the whole story every time. And this is one of those instances. The good thing with this critical incident that occurred is it was at 4:30 in the afternoon on Cypress. So it was in daylight. We had a lot of officers working, and there were a lot of witnesses, citizen witnesses that observed this. Plus, we had the surveillance video from the business that it occurred in front of.
So it sounds like the takeaway from this incident was a change in the policy, as you mentioned, to ensure that moving forward, things are operating as well as they can be. What do you say to those folks who say these body cameras, there's other agencies across the country using them. There's got to be some industry standards out there. It never should have been on sleep mode, considering, again, without knowing all the specifics. How do you address the community members who might be feeling that way?
You're never going to satisfy everybody. And especially in the times that we're in right now, there's people out there that no matter what we do as law enforcement is going to be wrong. But the bottom line is that we had a gentleman that was armed with a knife running up Cypress Avenue, and our officers were able to quickly resolve the situation with no community members or officers getting hurt. And that's the bottom line. And should it have been on video? Absolutely. But it wasn't. And that's okay. We can explain that. And we made adjustments to our policy. And our officers did phenomenal work. And we will make adjustments and be better on the next one.
And Chief, you just mentioned something that I don't think I had thought of previously. Is you mentioned that this was in daylight, so obviously it's really easy to see. It's easy for witnesses to see. How do those cameras function at night when there isn't a lot of light? Is there some external lighting source that officers carry, or how do those work when there isn't great visibility?
So it tries to mimic the human eye as much as possible, because so if you're using a flashlight, it'll illuminate with the flashlight. But one thing that you don't want to do with a body-worn camera is you don't want to have infrared on there and then go back and watch the camera and say, well, why didn't the officer see that? They couldn't. They don't see with infrared vision like the cameras can, or with heat sources or whatever else is out there. The cameras are designed to be as close to the human eye as possible.
I've got to imagine as well, they don't take into account adrenaline or some of those human functions that the camera can't recreate anyway. So it sounds like maybe the camera is a tool and part of an overall story, but it can't obviously be the end all be all solution.
Yeah. And as I look back over the last few years, the critical incidents that we have had, I can't think of any that haven't been on video. whether that be somebody filming with a cell phone, a business, everywhere there are cameras. And so our officer involved critical incidents have had some sort of video to be able to look at. So the body-worn camera just brings another piece of video evidence that we can look at. But looking into these incidents, it's really the mindset of the officer at the time that these happen. And so that interview with the officer and the witness officers after the fact.
And how often are officers actually reviewing their own body cam footage for training purposes? Because I would imagine, like Steve said, with adrenaline and spur of the moment thinking, it'd be nice to be able to go back and review that footage and really what could be improved. Is there a program or a training program where you review the footage, say, this is what we want, here's where we can improve here, and use that as a training tool?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's written into our policy that we can take videos to watch. Right now in our briefings that we have, our sergeants and corporals are watching body-worn camera from other agencies that have major incidents to debrief those that are happening, so that when they happen here, our officers are available. Now we have that tool that we can go back and watch our own instances that happen and be able to learn from those and train. So absolutely, that's the benefit of having a camera, is to be able to go back and use those for our training and to make our staff better.
When talking about pricing of this program and the cameras and the equipment and things, a big chunk of that pricing came down to cloud storage and storage of all this footage. You mentioned 95,000 videos in less than a year. That's obviously a ton. Has it met your expectations in that regard? Are there plans to increase based on allotments of what you've seen thus far moving forward? Or overall, has it been what you thought it would be?
We pay $246,000 a year for our contract. And that is it's a 5-year contract. So at the end of that contract, we're going to have to go back. And is storage going to be cheaper in 2027? I don't know. But the cost did come down significantly from when body-worn cameras first came out. So I hope it'll be cheaper and the cost will go down as time goes on, but we will definitely have to go back to contract and do that. So this was April 3rd is when we pulled it. We had 17.83 terabytes of storage thus far. So there's a lot of data, a lot of videos that are getting uploaded.
Since the body-worn cameras have been purchased and been used, technology is moving so fast these days. Are there any technological improvements coming down in the future that you see that you might implement, or you're just focused on acing what you've got right now?
I think we went with the best. Axon, they do really good work, and we've broken cameras, and part of our contract is they send us one out immediately that we give to the officer, and we send the broken one back. That's been great, because if you put cameras on police officers that are out in the field every day, things are going to break and not work. If you buy 122 cameras, you're going to have some. If you buy 122 of anything, you're going to have ones that are going to have issues that need to be fixed. But their customer service, that was one of the things that we heard from other agencies using Axon. Their customer service is phenomenal. And when you get a product and you put it out, and a new program like this is, having that customer service has made it really nice for us.
As the chief, looking ahead, what are your goals or priorities regarding the body-worn camera program, and how do you envision the role evolving in the future?
Just to continue to use it as a tool, just like any other tool that we have as police officers. This is just one that we're going to be able to have, and it's gonna help us every day. I think our officers are continuing to learn how to use the BWC to their advantage when they are interviewing a witness or they're interviewing somebody out in the field. How can they use that BWC to their advantage on a traffic stop, to be able to use that BWC to talk to somebody and get a confession on what they're talking about? Some of our officers, they'll tell a story as they're going to the call. They'll turn their body-worn camera on and start telling the story of the call for service, and kind of tell their story of, this is what I'm going to, this is what I'm thinking ahead of time, get there and then handle the call. and then be able to go back and look at that if something really bad happened. What was that officer's mindset going into that call? You have it right there on video with the officer talking about it. Pretty cool to see with that technology and how officers are using it to make their job easier and tell their story.
And I've got to imagine, too, in the scope of an incident, an officer having to write that post-incident report, are they able to also utilize some of that footage? Like we said earlier, adrenaline kicks in and they can't quite recall every detail. Can they also go back and look at that footage that they recorded and use that to ensure that their statement or their report is accurate?
Absolutely. And we encourage them to also. That's one thing that learning with this new program is we knew it was going to take more staff work. So if you're an officer writing your report, now you have to review body worn camera. So if you go to 4, 5, 6 calls during the day that you're writing reports on, you now have to build in that time of watching your body cam video, not just writing the reports. Time management for officers has had to change for that additional work that they need to do. Because really, if it's a major incident that they're doing a report on, we really encourage them to go back and watch that BWC so that it's very accurate.
I remember when we had this conversation about a year ago before the cameras had started, there was a portion of Reading police staff that either came from other agencies or were familiar with body-worn cameras and were really excited for those to start because they knew the perks that came with that. And then there were others that were new to the whole program. And so they were a little unsure of how this was going to play out because they'd never worn body cameras. Now, almost a year later, do you have anybody on the team who is still not thrilled with wearing them, or is pretty much everybody a convert at this point?
Everybody's on board. And I get some of the ones that have been around and done this job for a long time. Expectation of privacy. What other job is out there where somebody's has a body worn camera on the whole time they're on shift, recording everything that they're doing? And so to go from becoming a police officer and having the values and the integrity of that position, and then looking at now I have to wear a body worn camera because people don't believe me. I see some of that, but I think as time has gone on, that those few that were out there that had those feelings saw, you know what, this thing will protect me, show that I am doing the right thing out here, and they bought in 110%. All of the officers that we sent to the police academy, we switched to the Sacramento Police Academy, and then also down in the Bay Area. And all of our people that we sent to the police academy wore body cameras. That was part of their uniform down there. I think when Chief Schuler was here over his 4 years, we were in the high, I think it was 60, 64, 67 officers. We only have 55 in patrol. So that's our entire patrol division over the time that Chief Schuler was here. We flipped that entire staff. So it's not like we had any of the old timer police officers on patrol. It was all new staff. They're all in on technology. It makes their job easier and it protects them to have a BWC on. I think anybody getting into law enforcement now, the expectation is that you're going to be wearing a body worn camera.
With regard to gauging the effectiveness of this program, is there also a community advisory panel that helps with the oversight of this program and continually evaluate the successfulness?
No, and some of the past chiefs, they've been asked to formulate a citizen advisory committee. My stance is that everybody in this community is part of my citizen advisory committee. I don't want to limit it to 8 people, 10 people, 15 people. As I've gone to community meetings and talked to some of those groups that have talked about that's what I've told them. I will come talk to them anytime as the police chief. All they have to do is just set up an appointment and I will be there. I will come to any group, any neighborhood community meeting that they have. If not me, if they have something specific, I'll send the right person. Maybe it's one of my lieutenants or one of my captains. That's what they specialize in. I do say that it shouldn't always be the police chief, because there'll come a day when I won't be here and somebody else, one of my captains, will be the police chief, I hope, or one of my lieutenants that are coming up. the community really needs to get to know my entire leadership team, not just the chief of police. And the other that I see with community advisory committees is that as a police chief, I've seen others choose who's on that committee. And again, we talk about those people that you can never win. I can never win with who I pick to be on that committee. There will always be people that will disagree with that. As a police chief, I would rather go to any community group, and I'm an open book. I will talk to them and answer any difficult questions they have for me.
Speaking of difficult questions, we covered this in the previous episode on body-worn cameras, but it's probably worth revisiting it here for those who say in the community, can this footage be manipulated in any way or edited in any way? If the police are wearing a camera and they can review their footage, can they manipulate it to make them seem better than they actually are in a traffic stop or any stop? There are two sides to every story. So can police officers manipulate their side of the story?
Nope, nothing can be deleted, manipulated, changed at all. And Axon has been court tested and pushed through. Anybody that's listening, I encourage you to go look at Axon's website. They have facts and different areas that you can go into to look at things like that. But they've been around for a while. I will say that I might be a little bit biased, but I think that they are the best. And one of those reasons is because of just what you said. They've been tried, they've been put through the ringer through court and everything else as far as that goes. They track everything on the software. Yeah, there can be no changes to any of the footage that's done. When our body-worn camera unit does any kind of manipulation of a video to, say, if you had to blur a face out, or if you had, all of that is tracked in the programming when that's done. No, the officers can't go in and do any kind of changes to the videos. If I accidentally push record when I'm in the bathroom, that has to go through. So the officers will fill out a request form to delete video. That's sent to the BWC unit. The lieutenant of that unit is the one that reviews that video, nobody else, and makes the determination if it can be deleted or not. So there's lots of checks and balances in there. You can't delete anything off of those by yourself.
I do see the challenge in essentially wearing that for your entire shift when there are some things that should probably remain private in that instance. I've got a curious question, maybe it's a silly question, but are there any plans to roll out the body-worn camera program to the canines themselves? I don't know if that's a thing that any department does or really how that would work. Does Axon offer any products for the dogs themselves as they go into incidents?
They do. You can actually buy a mount for a dog. You know, the problem that we're having right now is our contract it's 122 cameras, and I don't have enough cameras for my detectives that are across the street. So they check them in and out. But when we have major incidents, we had the homicides that happened, we definitely saw that we need to buy more cameras for our staff. We're already a little bit short, but I think we quoted for 10 cameras, it was over $20,000. So they're not cheap to get. And so to spend that much money for a canine that is not used very much in those circumstances, it just comes down to cost and being smart with our budget and with the community's money, because it's general fund dollars, and making sure that we have so many needs for things to buy. It's like your own household. You have to budget and what's nice to have and what do we need to have.